What the fuck happened?
Let's see, last I remember, we were putting on some old VR headsets, and now we're in this weird circus tent.
Well, look what the cat dragged in.
What was that a reference to Baku?
No, Billy. It's a common expression. It has nothing to do with my appearance.
Billy, what the heck's going on? Who are these guys? Allow me to introduce myself. I am the brain. Over there is Baku. We have been trapped in this circus for a very long time now.
Okay, I get your whole motif that you want to be a brain in the jar, but could you please stop with the fake German accent?
It's not fake! I am German!
He really likes to roleplay.
So what the devil is this place?
As the brain said, this is the amazing digital circus, where the only thing to do is to waste time playing games. Don't bother trying to find an exit. There isn't one.
So, without further ado, I suppose we get...
Okay, peek behind the veil.
Guys,
I am actually genuinely terrified of reviewing the amazing digital circus. I know my review style, and I know I can be very harsh and critical. Now, I have no problems or qualms setting loose the dogs of war on big companies like Disney, DreamWorks, and Fox and Warner Brothers if they ruin my good franchises. But this is different. This is a fellow YouTuber. It always feels like I have to step on eggshells whenever I take on reviewing another content creator's work. Because if I don't review in my usual style, my audience will know that I'm not putting my all into it. But if I'm overly critical, then at best, people will hate me and insult me and saying I'm jealous because they're much bigger than me, or worse yet, they try to bring up my credibility as a reviewer into question. At the time of this video, I still have less than 1,000 subscribers. I don't really need the reputation of being a jealous hater. My original plan was just to avoid this altogether. But the amazing digital circus completely dominated every single poll I put it in. So, you literally asked for this. This is, for better or worse, the amazing digital circus. The episode begins with a title card that looks like old PlayStation 1 graphics. I would say Nintendo 64. It's Here We Meet Kane. What an odd design.
You're one to talk.
Well, Kane and his assistant Bubble lets us in on the digital circus and its format, as well as polite enough to introduce us to its main cast. This ribbon creature, this weird creature that's made up of a jangled of parts, kind of reminds me of the Mangled from FNAF, except even more random.
A king chess piece who's sitting in a pillow fort.
We have the rag doll and a rabbit man.
We also got a cardboard cutout of a sad clown.
Well, I feel like a clown character is a given in a show like this. Well, Kane is promising us a wondrous world of fantastical adventures and crazy scenarios that will keep us entertained forever. And then we get introduced to this little jester girl,
who is apparently freaking out about the whole situation. She shows herself off to the others, and that's met with indifference and ecstaticness that there's a new friend to join the circus. And this is where the jester girl makes a comment about how she put on a VR headset and doesn't know how to take it off.
In shows like this, the devil is in the details.
She says that she wears a VR headset. She also refers to it as a strange pair of VR headphones. My question is, why is she putting on a random pair of VR headphones?
One episode in and we already have enough information to have a lot of lore and theories. Please continue. Well, obviously the residences are curious about the new arrival, as the jester girl learns really quickly that this place is a family-friendly game, which means no swearing.
It's here we also get introduced to the archetypes of each character. From which one's the asshole, which one's the mother, which one's the not-caring tsundere, who's the crazy one, and who's the wet blanket.
Well, the jester tries to rationalize it as it being a massive dream, but Kane reassures her it is not a dream. She is in fact stuck in the digital circus. Time for a tour. Kane shows her around, to the tent, to the amusement park, to the swimming area, and even shows her the void, a very big empty space where even he doesn't know the extent of how far it goes, or what's inside. But it doesn't matter, because they're at the circus, so it should be a fun time.
But this is when our little jester girl sees an obvious exit door and tries to point it out. But Kane shoos her away when the moon starts to get frisky, and Kane wants nothing to do with it. Is it weird that we're less concerned with there being an exit door right there? And we're more concerned with what the fuck the moon was going to do to that mouth with eyeballs?
So after the tour, they say that she might as well make herself comfortable because there is no exit. But when she claims that she did see an exit on the outside, well, they gaslight her into saying it was hallucinations of the digital realm. But Kane is obviously hiding something.
But enough about that, there's more important issues. Like the fact that the clown girl doesn't even remember her name. Apparently, when she got uploaded into the system, she forgot a lot of her memories, her name included. But Kane has a solution by pulling up a random name generator where the name Pomni shows up, so now she's Pomni. I mean, I guess that's fine, well and good. She's got a name and we can stop calling her the Jester Clown Girl. But now, what do we do?
Then the Führer introduces a new game called Capture the Gloinks, a creature he had created that go around collecting random things and taking them around, and they have to catch them like the Pokemon. And he not gives the Pomni enough time to adjust to the situation. Raggedy also seems to be more understanding and tries to encourage Pomni to play the game. But the one called Zoombles is not interested, and then immediately is attacked by the Gloinks and torn to pieces and her body taken away.
Wait, that was a chick?
Anyone else think that Gloink is a stupid name? It genuinely sounds like he made it up on the spot. Well, this is coming from the guy who came up with the name Pomni and Zoobles.
As a guy who's constantly creating characters, stories, and other things, I can safely say that the name Gloink definitely sounds like a guy who's pushed all the way to his limits and he's running out of ideas quick. Well, the girl named Ragatha is doing her best to try to call Pomni down, but Pomni is adamant that she saw an exit door. So they decide to go to the one other person who claims they saw a door like that, leaving the crazy king chess piece and the sad ribbon girl to go collect the Gloinks. So they go through the halls where everybody has their own private room, and we also get to see some of the faces of other beings that have been in this weird digital circus before, with a large X mark across them, including a queen chess piece. I feel like I gotta remember that for later.
We are also given the impression that the people who have been playing this game have been doing it for a very, very long time. It's never disclosed how long, but it's clearly been more than a couple of weeks, months, possibly years. And then they go to the sad clown cutout door from earlier, opening it up to discover, Jesus Christ, what is that eldritch horror?
That is apparently what happens when the mind is forced to be in this digital realm where there's no sleep, food, or even anything possible to do for too long with no escape. And thus, the mind breaks. And the creature seems to still have a glitching effect that affects all things it touches in the digital circus, including other beings. So the rabbit and Pomni dip, leaving Raggedy to their fate.
Well, that's entirely accurate, but Pomni does manage to give it a slip, allowing her to rejoin her raggedy friend.
Now, this is rather curious. The human brain is one of the most complex organisms on the planet, and their digital bodies seem to be a reflection of whatever their psyche holds. So if the psyche ends up breaking, then it causes a glitch in the system, and the system can't compensate for the creature that is born from a broken, fractured brain.
So we cut back to the Ribbon and the King, as they find the hole where the gloinks are coming from. Jax, the rabbit, joins them and literally bowls them into the hole. And after sliding down a chute, they end up in a small cave where they meet the Gloink Queen. But enough with the side quest. We head back to Pomni as she rejoins Raggedy, as Raggedy is glitching beyond hell. It seems that when a mind breaks and turns into that monstrosity, whatever it touches also glitches. But there's a way to fix it. They have to find Cain, wherever he might be hiding. And seeing as Pomni is the only one who could help Raggedy at the time, she is charged with the mission to do so. So, without knowing anything about the layout of this place, she goes around randomly trying to find the Ringmaster, with less than any success because the creature is hunting her down. We cut back to the Gloinks, and the Glowing Queen is making it more and more obvious this feels like more of a side quest than anything else. And while Jax is just being an ass, Kinger is actually playing along to the whole roleplay bit. I kind of like the fact that he's so into it, despite the fact that the show has said that he's been here the longest, and he's definitely the most insane. But we also see that Jax is only making things worse because he's not telling anybody about the glitch mess of their friend. Speaking of which, we cut back to Pomni, who is currently running for her life, until she stops by a mirror and actually sees her reflection for the first time.
The psychological torment is probably eating away at her now. One can only imagine looking into the mirror and seeing something else that isn't your face. Even with no memories, you know something isn't right.
So Pomni goes around running around to try to lose the giant creature, and she is really having a bad day. But her day might have just got better because she found the exit door. Deciding to completely abandon all these strangers that she just met today, so I completely understand her motivation, she tries to leave, only to wind up in an office building. But she's still a clown. So clearly something got messed up in translation. So she goes through another exit door, and another, and another, and another. And yes, it's pretty much on loop.
We later cut back to the Glowings, and the Glowings are trying to take over the world. Understandable, that's a worthwhile goal. But then the glitching entity comes round and starts beating the ever-living swine out of the Glowing Queen. So the pawn chess piece rescues their friend Zubul, and they go and escape on the convenient escalator.
All while Jax is being an absolute asshole. We later cut back to Pomni, who is continuously running through door after door after door, through office space after office space after office space, slowly losing her mind in desperation. She does temporarily stop at one room where we get laser focused on a computer, but we don't spend enough time in it to really linger. But we do get the initials C and A as if it's part of a large corporation. But Pomni, I don't believe, notices, as she finally goes through one door specifically, and she enters the void.
This is like trying to solve FNAF. Just enough lore to keep us interested, but not enough to put together a full explanation.
We finally cut back to Cain and seeing he's on a dinner date with his bubble friend. But he gets an alert that Pomni is in the void and immediately jumps into action.
And it is instant. Like, this man knows instant transmission as he rescues Pomni immediately. But then he asks what the hell happened while he was gone, and Pomni does her best to explain. And so, with a snap of his fingers, Kane manages to literally fix all the problems, locking the glitch entity away in the basement with a bunch of other glitched entities, snapping Ragatha back into a solid mass as well as Pomni's hand, and admits, yes, he was working on an exit door because that was the #1 request. But he never figured out what to put on the other side, so he left the file in limbo until he could come up with a solution. But he does reward them for completing the game with a massive feast, even though none of them really need to eat, but they do it to pass the time. And so, Pomni sits in her chair, allowing the reality of her situation to really sink in, as she's forced to smile and play along to this madhouse of a game. And then we fade out, through the void and back through the computer, which clearly holds importance to this series.
And that was Amazing Digital Circus Episode 1, and thank God there's more positive than negative.
I must admit, my expectations for this series were a little bit staggering, because it did receive high praise, but I'm not entirely sure if that was just the fans jerking it off, or whether or not it was actually of that high quality. And it wasn't really the story that I was expecting it to be, but it is definitely a welcome change.
The show is effectively just about, well, a better version of Sword Art Online, except without a clear directive to win. Getting stuck in what is effectively a perpetual loop of an endless kids game. A show about the human psyche and how far it can be pushed before it inevitably snaps.
Such a situation is its own kind of hell.
It's also clear that each character's personalities and individualism is allowing them to cope in this perpetual hellscape in their own unique way.
So the show is going to be about trying to escape before their minds breaks and they turn into digital entities and be locked away forever. Of course, they already are technically locked away forever.
I already have so many theories.
I will say, though, it was a bit rushed. Tone down the pacing. You don't have to go all out all at once. You can drip feed us information if it means allowing us to process what's happening.
But we'll have to sit on those theories for another time. Until then, we're the Cartoon Gentlemen.
I'm Riash.
I am Zibrin. I am Baku. Billy.
And I'm Gent. And we will see you all next time.